Climate change is a hoax. Humans don't cause climate change. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm sure you've heard someone say these things because I hear people saying them all the time. What's going on, you guys? Welcome to my channel. I'm Aman Luthra, and today I will be debunking 10 very common myths about climate change. I really did not want to make this video because in my opinion, the science behind climate change is very clear, and we have all the solutions that we need to act on it. However, I've gotten a ton of comments recently from deniers and people who feel hopeless about climate change, so I decided to address these thoughts today. If nothing else, I hope this video at least clears up a lot of confusion that exists about climate change. So with that said, here are 10 very common myths about climate change. Number 1, the climate is not changing. I wish this one were true, but unfortunately it's not. As more and more CO2 and other greenhouse gases enter the atmosphere, they trap heat that we get from the sun. That's the greenhouse effect 101. It's the exact same reason your car turns into an oven if you leave it outside on a hot summer day with the windows closed. But in this case, the air inside the car is the atmosphere, and the windows are the greenhouse gases that trap the heat inside. Take a look at this graph released by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The blue and red bars represent how much CO2 is in the atmosphere, and the black line represents the average temperature. As you can see, we have emitted more and more carbon dioxide with time, which has only allowed the temperature to go up. And as global temperatures rise, so do the frequency and intensity of natural disasters that people, plants, and animals have to face every year around the world. It allows for more water to evaporate over the ocean, leading to more hurricanes. It leads to drier areas in places like California, which lead to more wildfires. And of course, it melts polar ice caps, which leads to sea level rise. So climate change is not a hoax. It's here and we need to do something about it. Number 2, the climate has always been changing, and this is normal. Sure, the Earth's climate has gone up and down in the past, but what we are experiencing right now is nowhere near normal. Here's another graph released by the NOAA. It shows you how much carbon dioxide has been present in the atmosphere over time. Human activity really took off with the Industrial Revolution that started in the 1700s, and ever since then we have been emitting more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And as you can see, right now it is the highest it has ever been. As of May 2022, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is at 418 parts per million. And that number is only expected to go up with time because human activity is not going to slow down anytime soon. This is not normal at all. Number 3, humans do not contribute to climate change. While there are some natural forces that do contribute to climate change, the primary driver is still humans. The reason climate change happens is because more and more greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide enter the atmosphere every day. Where do those gases come from? It's from the activities that people do on Earth, like generating energy, driving on roads, and industrial agriculture, to name a few. These activities burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, which release carbon dioxide that has been trapped in the ground for millions of years into the atmosphere. Sometimes a natural event like a volcanic eruption will also release greenhouse gases. But that's not even close to what 8 billion humans admit, which is the current global population. Also, the natural world was designed to cycle carbon and other greenhouse gases between the atmosphere, vegetation, and the ground, keeping the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere relatively steady. The problem with human activity is that we keep throwing a ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and we don't put an equal amount of effort into taking it out. That is why 97% of scientists agree that human activity is the primary driver behind climate change. Common sense would highly doubt that many scientists are on a mission to lie to us all. Number 4, climate change is a future problem. I hate to break it to you, but climate change is already here, and amazingly enough, we are still ignoring it. The hurricanes that hit the East Coast, the wildfires that ravage in California, and the floods in the street of Miami are all a result of climate change. Maybe these events have not happened where you live, but as more and more greenhouse gases enter the atmosphere, there are no guarantees for the future of where you are at the moment. The only thing that's guaranteed is that these events will keep happening without climate action. If we keep saying that climate change is a future problem, we are just making excuses to not take action. which is not going to work if we really want to stay under the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees Celsius. If you ask me, I think it's way better to prevent these things from getting worse instead of continuing to fix them as they happen. I think constantly spending money on fighting wildfires, repairing homes that are damaged by storms, and so on is a lot more costly and frankly stressful to deal with than putting in the efforts to stop them in the first place. Climate change is already here, and the only way that things are going to get better is if we choose to make them better. Number 5, climate change is too expensive to fix. To address this one, I think it's helpful to understand what it would take to fix climate change. Perhaps the largest sector that contributes to greenhouse gas emissions is energy generation. That's energy needed to make electricity, transport ourselves, run offices and homes, and so on. Unfortunately, most of that energy comes from burning fossil fuels. Instead of continuing to pour our money into coal, oil, and natural gas and making climate change worse, we could very well pour it into renewables, electric vehicles, and many other technologies that we have at our disposal. The good news is that solar and wind are now cheaper to produce than fossil fuels, which is why 70% of energy generation in 2021 went into renewables. The second largest sector that produces greenhouse gases is food production. For the most part, that's because we eat a lot of animal-based foods. So one of the best personal changes that we can make for the environment is by adopting more plant-based diets. I think a lot of people fear plant-based diets because they think they won't get the nutrition they need, or they think they'll be missing out on a bunch of tasty foods. But as someone who has been vegan for over 3 years, I can tell you that nutrition has never been a problem for me, and I keep discovering new and tasty foods all the time. Also, living on a plant-based diet is not expensive at all if you know where to shop and the options that you have available. I don't think my spending habits changed much when I went vegan. If transitioning to a plant-based diet is something that you're interested in, then check out the video in the top right corner. But to sum this one up, fixing climate change is not expensive at all. What it really takes is putting our values back into the environment that we rely on every single day. Number 6, plants need carbon dioxide to live anyway. It is true that plants breathe in CO2 and release oxygen, but they can only do that so much. The challenge is that in any given time frame, we emit more carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases than all the trees and plants in the world can absorb. What makes it even harder is that we continue to deforest the planet for food production, so fewer trees and plants means less carbon dioxide can be absorbed. Releasing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere does not help plants reproduce, nor does it help them grow any faster, especially at the rates that we release carbon dioxide. If we really want to save trees and plants, then we need to stop cutting them down, and we need to restrict the amount of emissions that we produce. Otherwise, the job just gets harder and harder for them. Besides cleaning the air, plants are critical for providing food, medicine, clean water, and so many other services that we rely on every day. They deserve our protection. Number 7, saving the environment means sacrificing the economy, or vice versa. This one really depends on the approach that we decide to take, and right now we are choosing the approach that makes this statement true. We can definitely grow economies by investing in fossil fuels, but that will never save the environment. As long as we keep the majority of our subsidies in fossil fuels, it will make renewables more expensive than necessary to invest in, especially when it comes to upfront costs. On the other hand, we could shift subsidies towards cleaner energy and make it a lot cheaper to invest in renewables. Like I mentioned earlier, solar and wind are now cheaper than fossil fuels, and they will only get cheaper with more technological advances. Energy from fossil fuels costs about 5 to 17 cents per kilowatt hour in the US, while solar is 3 to 6 cents and wind is 1 to 2 cents. Because of that, the demand for renewables is expected to substantially increase in the coming years. However, creating new energy sources isn't enough. It also requires us to replace current energy sources with cleaner alternatives. Otherwise, the pollution is not going to stop. So again, it really depends on the approach that we take. We can either continue to put profit above people, or we can flip the script and save both at the same time. Number 8, plants and animals can adapt. Sure, some adaptation is possible, but most of these plants and animals cannot keep up with the current rate of climate change. Human activities like food production and housing developments lead to deforestation and the loss of habitats. So the best hope for most of these species is to move, and most of them cannot do that. I don't think these plants and animals should have to suffer because of the choices that we make. It's important to remember that we need these plants to live, and these animals have feelings just like we do. We cannot take them for granted. Number 9, it is too late to stop climate change. Just like with point number 7, we have a choice with this one. We have already caused a lot of irreversible changes. But depending on how we choose to move forward, there will be a lot more irreversible changes that happen. Or we can stop these changes from happening. Right now in 2022, we have already made it to nearly 1.1 degrees Celsius of global warming. And if we want to stay under the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees, then we really have only about 7 years left to do so. Most of us will still be alive by then, so that's not really much time left. So again, we can choose to continue the lives that we live right now and face much greater risk in the future, or we can take the actions that are needed to fix climate change and preserve the planet for ourselves and future generations. It starts with you, me, and all of us. Number 10 is that my impact does not matter. You may not be able to fix climate change all by yourself, but that doesn't mean your impact is negligible. Let me make it clear that the idea of a personal carbon footprint is a scam in a lot of ways because it shifts the blame of emissions from the fossil fuel industry to the individuals. But with that said, I think we can all do something better to reduce our emissions because at the end of the day, they still add up. I like to think of it like voting. Your vote may be one small number among millions of voters, but it still counts and makes a difference. Otherwise, there would be no point in voting. Taking action to protect our environment is no different. So remember, your impact counts and your actions matter. So take action today and don't stop. And that's it. Those are the 10 most common myths that I have heard about climate change. Is there one that you think I missed? Whether it's something that you've heard from a denier, from someone who feels hopeless, or if it's about the actions that we need to take, share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember that there are no shortcuts to fixing climate change. The only way it's gonna work is action. It all comes down to whether or not you, me, and everyone else decides to take action or not. So let's start taking action today, because nature can live without us, but we can't live without nature. If you found this video insightful, then please give it a like and subscribe down below. New videos are posted every Friday, either a topic about climate change like this one, or a super fun outdoor adventure. So make sure you ring the bell as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya!